laughing loud and feeling free. Never noticed till you there was more. They can't see you really. So stand out, stand out, stand out. You're here, you're free, absolutely where you need to be. So stand out, stand out, stand out.
Welcome to the Sonshine State, a space for health, healing, and wellness.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Sonshine State. My name is Sonshine Wiley and I am your host. Thank you guys so much for tuning in today. Today is a wonderful day to be able to get some good vibes going and be able to just kind of talk about some stuff that's been pressing and that, has kind of been prevalent in our society. I wanted to kind of bring something to you guys today. I know I always deal with self-care and self-love and, gratitude and emotional wellness as a whole. But today I kind of really wanted to talk about one of these things that we are facing. I actually kind of touched on it before, but I really kind of wanted to talk about the trend of depression and anxiety. A lot of times we have these situations where people are talking about, oh, woe is me, and I'm depressed and I have anxiety issues and I've been through this and I've been through that. And, it really pulls on our heartstrings because we really realize that in this day and age, there is a lot, to deal with. There's a lot to face and there's a lot to sift through. We have social media issues. And of course, there are people who are addicted to, having the fame and the acclaim and the likes and all that kind of stuff from being on social media. And so, it's kind of becoming more and more of a prevalent issue where people have social anxiety, where people have depressing moments or have moments of depression or seasons of depression. And so I feel like it would be a great opportunity to actually sit in those things for a moment and see, how can we actually go through those things and explore those moments and get beyond, how we feel about those specific things. So today, that's kind of one of the things that I want to talk about. I want to talk about mental and emotional wellness as a whole. Is it possible to be mentally and emotionally well? Like, we see people talking about awareness all the time. We see people giving us tips and things like that to take us to a place of being at peace with ourselves all the time. But sometimes when you're in the middle of that, it's really hard to actually see yourself on the outside of it. Sometimes it's difficult to see yourself as anything other than that moment. And so today I kind of want to explore that. So before I talk about that, I want to give you some statistics. According to, let me read it here. So according to the Anxiety and Depression Association of America, anxiety disorders are the most common mental illness in the U.S. It affects 40 million adults in the U.S. and 18 or older, roughly 18.1% of the population each year. Now, that's a lot of people. That's a lot of people. We got 40 million adults in the U.S. at a rate of roughly 18.1% of the population each year. So that doesn't mean 18.1% of the population, period. This is all that's affected. It means per year. So that means that's 18.1% of people who are increasingly being diagnosed or realizing that they're facing anxiety or depression. That is a lot. That is a lot. I actually was recently watching the documentary. I think it was called The Social Experiment or Social Media or something like that. But I watched the documentary, and in the documentary, they were really talking about how, they kind of restrict their own families when they were actually, these were the creators of these social media platforms. They were restricting their children and themselves from being able to, interact with those platforms as often as others do. Like, I know me, I've had moments where I've spent 4 and 5 hours on social media, not all in the same time, but I can see that within my day, I've spent 5 hours on social media, either going back and forth, doing messages or posting or scrolling or reading or looking at videos, getting caught up, going down the rabbit hole and so it's easy for me to look back and be like, dang, well, I fell down this rabbit hole and these other people are restricting their own use. So I had to ask myself, like, after, looking at that documentary, and they were telling me, all the cold, hard facts and how they design it to be able to draw you in. They design it to have you, feeling like you're going to be, that you need to see the next thing, that you need to look at the next video or the next aspect that they're showing you. And for me, as a person who has dealt with anxiety quite a bit, those things don't help me. It doesn't help me to be on social media all the time because there's a mixture of emotions that I get from that. I can feel happy because I'm watching videos of cute babies dancing in roller skates. That video was super cute, by the way. I can be happy about seeing, the black girls doing the ballet on the New York, the Brooklyn Bridge. That was cute too, but then there's also, the videos of watching violence. There's the videos of watching people getting gunned down by police. Now, I want to make this disclaimer, I'm not trying to say that it's not okay to watch those videos. I'm not trying to say that it's not okay to be able to have that as an outlet to be able to unwind. All I'm saying is that for me, I have to be cautious about that because I realize that those moments are not necessarily, the best moments for me because sometimes when I get in those moments, I kind of take on the trauma that I'm seeing. And for me, it's not always healthy to take on other people's trauma. It's not always healthy to be able to see all this trauma because it's triggering. I could be triggered by something that happened in my past, or you could be triggered by something happened in your past. You never know. And so it's always important to be mindful of those things. I actually was talking to my daughter recently. She got a cell phone. Her dad got her a cell phone, and it's become her new go-to. Every time she is awake, she wants to be on this cell phone. She loves doing the videos. She loves playing the games. We haven't allowed her to get any kind of Facebook or anything like that yet because she's just too young, and we can control her, but we cannot control the people who may or may not have the wrong intentions toward her. And I don't want to have to be the FBI and try to hunt somebody down for private messaging my 8-year-old daughter. And that just wouldn't be good. So we don't allow her to have social media at this age. But she is allowed to have this one app called Likey. And Likey is supposed to be the light version of TikTok because TikTok is a little much for an 8-year-old. For me, not so much. For an 8-year-old, it's not all the way appropriate for us. Right? So, we're like, we don't know if we want her to be on TikTok because, we don't want her doing all the TikTok dances because some of the TikTok dances, parenting, right? So I realized, I think we both realized separately, but then kind of talked about it together. But we realized that that she was starting to spend more and more time on the phone, and she was having less and less of the ability to focus. And that's one of the things that are linked to it. Like, once that addiction comes, it holds your attention. It causes you to really be focused and zoned in on that thing. But what happens is it takes your ability to be able to focus on other things. It reduces that amount. And I don't know exactly the numbers. I can give you the numbers. I can put them I'll put them at the bottom of the screen. How about that? So, but I'll put those numbers at the bottom of the screen just so that you'll know, what are, the instances or what is the likelihood or what's the rate of, people's attention span once they've actually gone extended amounts of time, having screen time and things like that. So I'll put that at the bottom of the screen. But I noticed that in her, just not looking at any statistics, but I noticed that in her, she started to really, really be, soaked in and kind of attached to her social media or likey or the games and this, that, and the other. And yes, the two are connected, but it also leads to another thing. When we give her so much time on that, that means she's spending less time with us. She's spending less time with other humans. And, I started to see her be less and less confident in herself when it came to doing like actually focused work for school. Like, not the computer stuff, but stuff where she actually has to write. It was like a issue for her. And I was like, wait, let's try to get this together because I don't really understand why this is like this right now. But we're going to nip this at the bud because you're brilliant and there's nothing else. But yeah, so going back to what I was saying, it's a lot of people who, we have these statistics and, we have treatment options. There's therapy, there's self-care, there's, you can read articles on self-love. I've read a ton of them. I've read articles on all of these subject matters because it's something that's important to me. And for my personal journey, it's something that I felt was important to research to make sure that what I'm doing is actually going to produce a result. Because the one thing that I really don't see very much of is people actually spotlighting, life after anxiety, life after depression. A lot of times we are so focused on, bringing awareness and so focused on making sure that we push things to the forefront, push these illnesses to the forefront, that we don't really talk about life after. Because sometimes people like me, I like to be able to say, okay, there's hope. There can be a life after. I don't have to function this way the rest of my life. I don't have to be this way the rest of my life. There doesn't have to be, this doesn't have to be the rest of my life. This isn't my end, This is just a part of my journey. This is a step, along the way, and I like that. I like being able to feel like there is hope, for me to go beyond where I am right now, And so I've seen on the social media post and, I've read tons of articles, just like I said a moment ago, which is freaking awesome, and I love seeing that. I love seeing that professional help is actually being normalized. I love seeing that going to therapy is being normalized. But I actually asked my therapist one day, I was like, look, I've been in here for 8 months now. And so can you tell me, is there really a possibility that I'll actually get beyond where I am right now? Is there a possibility for me to actually feel free from this thing? Is it possible for me to not feel so connected to those things, those traumatic events that happened in my past? Is it possible for me to feel a complete sense of healing and wholeness as a result of all of this work that I'm doing? Because I'm doing, the assignments that she's giving me. I'm, doing the breathing exercises. I could tend to do those a little bit more because they're very helpful. You just have to really make time to do those. Because when you do those breathing exercises, you got to really sit with yourself and give yourself an opportunity to shut everything up. Like really quiet your mind and quiet your atmosphere and give yourself an opportunity to sit in those moments and do those breathing exercises. I actually wanted to do a breathing exercise today during the podcast, but because I do bite-sized podcasts, I figured it best for me to do a separate breathing exercise and, kind of just talk about some affirmations and things like that. But I'll talk about that a little bit later in the podcast. But just so you know, I will be doing that. So definitely look out for that because it's an attachment to the Sonshine State, because I do want to start doing those things. I do want to start really really honing in on my self-care techniques. I want to hone in on the things that I'm doing to, make change for myself. And I'm not going to pretend like what I'm doing is the answer. I'm not going to, pretend like what I'm giving you is the end all be all or the final solution. All I'm saying is this is something that I'm doing for myself. And I've seen that there have been some improvements in my life as a result of this, along with my therapy, because it's a process. It's a process. Being emotionally well is a process. First of all, it's a decision. because I decided that I no longer want to be in a place where I am unhappy and I'm making everybody else around me unhappy. I was always the person who was angry. I was always the person who was, making other people angry because they could tell I was angry or because my words were sharp. I had a sharp tongue. Like the things that I would say to people, I look back and I'm like, I see why you don't have friends. I got friends now, but like the friends that I had were kind of my friend and not really my friend because they didn't know, at what point I would flip on them or at what point I would pop off or at what point I would disappear, because there were times where, I would just kind of go into my little reclusive mode and I'll see you guys in about a week or two, or a month or however long I felt like being a recluse. And, it wasn't until I realized that, well, I'll give an example. I had a friend. I'll tell a story. I had a friend. She and I were really good friends. She and I still are really good friends. But we went through a rocky period where she was just like, she felt as if I was unhappy. I didn't want to be happy, and I didn't want anybody around me to be happy. Understandable. Ooh. She felt as if I didn't want to be happy, and she felt as if I didn't want anybody around me to be happy. With that whole situation, I can see how she had that frame of mind, because there were a lot of times where all I would do was talk about the negative things or the bad things or the unsatisfactory things that I was going through, or the things that I was judging. And we'll talk about that in a second, because that's another thing that I also faced. And I'll tell you, these things may seem like a lot of she's pointing out her flaws today, but that's not necessarily it. What I'm pointing out is symptoms. What I pointed out was the fact that these were things that should have been telltale signs to me, that, okay, sooner, because eventually there were, but they should have been telltale signs for me sooner to know, okay, you need to figure out a way to get past this, because you're making yourself unhappy and you're making those around you unhappy. Anyway, back to my friend. She felt that way about me, and it became apparent in the way that she would speak to me. She would talk to me and in ways that were kind of brash, and I'm assuming that was because that was the outpouring of how she felt on the inside. And finally, we had a conversation, and I was like, the things that you say to me now, me, the one who was speaking all the harsh words, the things that you're saying to me now are kind of, they're not kind. They're kind of throwing jabs at me a little bit. Well, you do this. Well, you feel that way. Please, you got this. Or please, that's what you're thinking about. And I'm like, she's doing that a lot. She's pointing out like flaws to me a lot. And all she was really doing was mirroring what I was doing to myself, because I would be the first one to say, that there were things that I wasn't happy about with myself. I would be the first one to criticize my appearance. I would be the first one to criticize, how, my friendships were all going out of the window because of how I was acting. But I wasn't changing anything about it. And I know we're in the day and age. Oh, girl, just don't worry about it. Don't worry about friends. All you need is you, and you. A lie. A whole lie. You need more than you. You need more than you. That is a whole lie. And I don't know who created this whole thing where we have to feel like we have to be an island. But for me, that is not the truth. I need my tribe. I love my tribe. I respect my tribe. And I'm happy about having a tribe, even though it is small right now. I'm happy about having genuine connections. And that's a part of being able to grow and to allow yourself to be whole. Because a lot of times we get into these situations where when we say those things, it's out of pride and then it's out of pain. It's not out of truth. It's not coming from a place of truth. And if what you're saying is coming from a place of truth, then why not? If what you're saying is coming from a place of truth, then it will actually bring life. Life comes out of truth. You don't create, you don't kill yourself when you're telling the truth, or whatever it is that I'm trying to say. But anyway, back to what I was saying. You know, I when I was talking about the time that I was spending on social media, um, it was difficult for me to pull away from social media because I realized that, that was where I was bleeding. That was where I was pouring out my heart. That was where I was posting the things that made me feel a certain way. Say, for instance, if I had a bad day today, I would be like, today's not a good day for me. I'm realizing that I really don't have anybody. And, if I want somebody to love me, I got to love myself and yada, yada, yada. Now, in essence, those words are not bad. But when I said those things, they came from a place of bitterness. When I said those things, they came from a place of hurt and pain and internal torment. They didn't come from a place of accepting that maybe these connections are no more and I do have to do better at loving myself so that I can be in loving friendships and relationships. That's not where I came from. I came from, well, they not doing me right, so whatever, I'm just going to do it myself. No. Because, words can definitely be phrased in different ways to mean different things. And yeah, so anyway, but that's what I'm saying. I wasn't coming from a place that actually wanted to be healed. I came from a place of wanting pity, of wanting the likes for those social media posts. So it's like you got this person who is dealing with this mental or emotional issue, then they're posting and bleeding on social media, hoping to, be able to share and enlighten, quote unquote, or that's the way they portray it, or the way I portrayed it, because all of them weren't for awareness. Some of them was just to throw jabs, and when I made those posts, I would check back often just to see how many people were liking, just to see how many people were interacting with, what I said. And it's like, for what? Why? I became more dependent on the likes than actually working on the thing that I was posting about. And that didn't benefit me at all. I'm saying that to say that for me, I realized that was one of the things that were taking away from me being able to grow and get to the goal of actually being emotionally and mentally well, because that is the whole point of it all, right? We have all these exercises, we have all these, these articles and things that we read. We have, the therapists that we see, we have the support groups, and the motivational speaking videos and things like that. We have all of that to be better. And if we're putting ourselves in a place to actually be subject to rejection, because if you don't get enough likes, it feels like rejection. So if we're subjecting ourselves to feeling rejection over social media, and we're trying to be well at the same time, it seems counterproductive. It seems like it actually does not improve us at all. It actually makes us worse. And I'll be honest, I don't want to be worse off than what I was. I don't want to be worse off than what I am right now. I've made progress and I don't want to go back. I've made progress and I don't want to be, back in the place where I was, considering suicide or actually attempting suicide, because that has been a point where I had reached in my life. I don't want to go back there, and I don't want to be worse than there. Heck no, I'm good on that. So I was like, you know what? No more posting about my mental and emotional state on social media. I can continue to do it on my podcast because that's where I'm actually, achieving or looking to achieve a journey of wellness with the community of people who are with me. And the thing that also helped me is that when I post this, I don't look at the likes. I'm not even looking for comments or things like that. It's literally to get this message across because I understand that it's needed. It is so needed. Women, African-American women, we have had to bear such a cross And, we've had to be the hero. We've been objectified. We've been separated from, we've had this family structure separated, and now we're trying to figure out how to get back to it. And it's just a lot of stuff. And, and I'm speaking to African-American women because I am an African-American woman. And that's the perspective that I can talk about. I can't talk about anybody else's perspective. And so I just feel like, getting to a place of being completely at peace and being able to really celebrate all the amazing things that are me, and that you being able to do the same is what's way more important than any of this other stuff. Like, it's cool to be liked. It's cool for people to engage and enjoy what you do. But if what you're doing is only for that, then it is hollow. And I'm not interested in being hollow. I'm interested in being able to get beyond the moments where I have anxiety attacks, because those, they're not fun, And I am a beautiful person who was not able to see it at that time. I had bitterness. I had anger, it had everything to do with my internal crap, and all the people around me were suffering as a result of that. So that was really the hugest charge for me to actually say, you know what, let me get this together. Let me figure this out, and let me find a way to do that. So with that being said, I do invite you all to take a moment today to sit with yourself, to sit with your thoughts, and be able to really sift through where you feel you are. Just assess where you are, how your interactions with people are going, how your interactions with yourself are going, how your interactions, I said people already, but I meant people outside of your home, how your interactions are going with the people in your family, the ones who are closest to you in your circle. Evaluate how those relationships are going, and really give yourself a moment to sit in those things and do two things. Be grateful for those relationships. Be grateful for all of the wonderful things that come out of those relationships. Be grateful for the fact that you have those connections and that you have people who care for you in the way that they do. And number two, be able to sit in those moments and say, how, if at all, because if you're not, then this doesn't apply. How could I improve the way I operate within myself so that I am not spilling over whatever is going on with me into those relationships? Because oddly enough, we always try to hide what we're going through, but it's never really invisible. People can see it all over your face. I know my face doesn't lie. My face is an open book. People can see, oh, something's not right today. What's going on with his face? Or what's on your mind? I get that question a lot. But, so really evaluate and sit with those things and give yourself the opportunity to move beyond where you once were, because there is hope and there is possibilities. And we'll talk about it more on the next episode, but we're just going to continue on this journey to be able to move forward and see that we are more than capable of being well. We are more than capable of being well. We are capable of being whole. We are capable of having everything it is that we desire and manifesting those things in our lives. So with that being said, I thank you guys so much for tuning in today. My name is Sonshine Wiley. I have been your host. Please be sure to like, subscribe, and share. Please feel free to send any comments, to send any email messages to the email address below. And I'll definitely reach out. I'll respond to some of it online. Thank you guys so much for tuning in again today. Have a great day. And also, if you want to actually listen to those affirmations, I'll definitely make sure that there's a link to those affirmations as well in the links to this video. And with all that being said, thank you guys so much again. I'm Sonshine Wiley. Once again, that's Sonshine with an O. You can reach me on my website, www.sunshinestate.com. Again, that is www.sunshinewithano.state.com. I'm on now YouTube, on Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter, all of those, the Sonshine State. And thank you guys so much. Have a wonderful day. Take some time and breathe in and breathe out yourself, because you are the light. Have a good day.
So stand out, stand out, stand out.
Thank you for joining the journey to the Sunshine State, a space for health, healing, and wellness.